Whenever anyone's considering working with your business, buying from you, or hiring you, you better believe they're going to be basing that decision heavily on what they see right on your website. And whether you're hiring a designer to make one for you, or you decide to tackle it on your own DIY style, there are a couple decisions that you want to make before you get the process started. Making these decisions up front is going to let you start faster, finish stronger, and end up with a really profitable customer generation tool for your business. I'll walk you through all three of these really critical decisions, why they're so important, and point you in the right direction whenever I can, because trust me, this is what I do, and I definitely have thoughts on what works, as well as what usually trips people up, causing their websites to be nothing more than pretty useless digital brochures. Okay, so let's just get started with decision number one, and that is deciding on your platform. So by platform, what I really mean is it going to be WordPress or Wix or Squarespace? Some people go really basic with just a Google site. Now, while this is completely up to you, and there are pros and cons to all the platforms out there, I do have a really definitive, clear-cut recommendation for you, and that's to stick to WordPress in almost all cases. Here's why. Now, I know there are all these website builders like Wix out there, and if you're thinking that you're going to be going the DIY route, this may seem like the easiest, most stress-free way to do it. However, I recently tried making my very first Wix site just to see if it's something I would ever recommend, and it turns out, no, it is not. It really wasn't all that easy, and the experience actually felt pretty chaotic, to be honest with you. So I can't speak for Squarespace, I haven't used it, but I have to imagine it might be a fairly similar experience. Not to mention the fact that for all those online web builders, you have to pay to pretty much rent that site every single month. Now, sure, there are free plans, but they limit you, and they put ads all over your site as a form of payment, so really it's not even free. And let's face it, ads all over your website, not a good look for your business. Now, people hear WordPress and they think, this is gonna be complicated, I'm gonna need to know how to code, or I'm gonna need to hire a designer to do this for me. Now, I am not here to tell you if you should hire a designer or DIY it, but WordPress is a perfect option for you either way, because most good designers out there are very familiar with WordPress. It's pretty much the gold standard of modern websites these days. And if you wanted to create your own website, it's actually incredibly easy to do it on WordPress thanks to free page building plugins like Elementor. Trust me, I used to design sites for clients, and in the olden days, I'd have to just, do a visual mock-up in Photoshop and then hand that off to a developer to code it and actually make it into a website. But then when I discovered Elementor, I was making actual websites that same afternoon myself and just skipping the mock-up stage completely. This is the way I teach it inside of my paid program, and honestly, we have all types in there. Most are very non-techy, and they are able to pick it up really quickly. And I hear from them all the time that they not only understand it, but most of them actually think it's a lot of fun to use. And here's a little pro tip for you, okay? So even if you end up hiring a designer, I highly recommend you get one who will create your site for you on Elementor so that it'll be really easy for you to make any changes you ever need to make in the future without having to go back and pay for those changes. So first decide on your platform, and I highly recommend you go with WordPress plus the Elementor page builder plugin. Okay, time for decision number two. So what do you want your site to look like? While the words on your website are going to do most of the heavy lifting, when it comes to persuading people, the overall look and feel is important as well. At a bare minimum, it needs to look professional and appropriate for your business and appealing to your unique audience. And even if you're gonna go with hiring a designer, I still think it's important to have some sense going into that process of what you're going for visually, or at least, some stuff you like and what you don't like, so that you can start them out on the right foot. And of course, if you're doing it all yourself, it's even more important because you don't have anyone to guide you and give you options. So the best way to make this decision is to go find a few inspiration sites that you not only like from a look and feel perspective, but that also feel appropriate for your business. Because it's important to remember here, what you like isn't nearly as important as what's going to work and what's going to resonate with your customers. And obviously, there are literally billions of websites, so where would you even start for finding this inspiration? What I don't recommend doing is what most businesses do, which is just looking what their competition's doing. The reason I don't love starting there is that they probably don't really have anything worth borrowing from in most cases. And the last thing you want is for your website to look just like your competition, right? And as a side note, when I talk about getting other websites as inspiration, I do not mean to copy them, right? There's a very fine line to walk here. So what we actually want are a few inspiration points that you can maybe get inspired by, some color choices over here, and maybe you like this layout on this other website, and this style of icons is going to work really well for you. So we are not copying here. We're getting inspiration and then doing it in your own way with your own combination of elements from different sources, all right? Just so we're on the same page there. In the first place I like to go to get website inspiration is actually a website that sells thousands of different WordPress themes. There's a bunch of these, but the one I usually go to is called themeforest.com. And the reason I like going here rather than actual company websites is because it's gonna let you search for different styles, and almost everything you're gonna see there is super current. And I find that most are pretty timeless too, meaning they're not crazy trendy. So you can search by your industry, but I really encourage you to branch out from that a bit. So if you're a salon owner, you don't need to get inspiration only from their salon-based themes. Remember, you are going to be changing the photos anyway, and whenever you browse based on industry, it's pretty much just the photos that make industry specific, to be honest. But when you're browsing, be on the lookout for color schemes you like, fonts you like, image styles you like, and layouts too. So then what you want to do is just save them however works best for you, whether that's taking screenshots or just bookmarking all of the links. Having these rough ideas of the styles you're going to use is going to be so helpful when you're creating it yourself using Elementor, or even if you're just passing them along to your designer so that they have a really good idea now of the kind of thing you're going for. And that's really going to cut down on those revision rounds that can drag a website project on for months. Okay, now for number 3, and this is by far the most important thing to decide on up front, and that's your content plan. Now, the single biggest mistake I see business owners make is prioritizing the design of their website over the actual content. So I remember back in my early web design days, I would start designing the website with no idea what was actually going to be on it. I would design these content blocks for words that didn't even exist, and it was the client's job to supply me with the content that I just, later slot in wherever it would fit. And those early sites I designed flopped hard, right? And seeing all those failures firsthand is what led me to start studying up on website content that sells. And I started to make that the priority. And lo and behold, those sites were actually helping my clients' businesses. So, before any design work is done, before you start physically creating the website, you need a strategic plan, right? What pages do you include? What sections do those pages need? And what's the rough messaging that you should be putting on all those pages that will actually lead cold website visitors to warm up into actual paying clients? Because here's the truth. The words you choose to put on your website are what's going to make the sale. And if this feels at all overwhelming, like you don't know what to include and you don't know where to start, don't worry. I have you 100% covered here because there's a very worked out framework that any service-based business can use. If you click right here, you're going to be able to sign up for my free on-demand masterclass where I'm going to show you exactly what goes into a high-converting service business website and what you can and should leave out. Spoiler alert, it all boils down to a very streamlined, simple, clear website that works amazingly well every time. So just click right here and I'll send you your access right away.